All right. So the intuitive concept of multiplication, for example, if I say I'm taking 2/3 times some number. I don't even care what the number is. Or not number, quantity. Whatever the quantity is. Whether it's 100, whether it's 10, I don't care. Doesn't matter. The intuitive concept is linked to the word of. That is the key word here. I'm taking a portion of a quantity. When it comes to fraction multiplication, that is the intuitive understanding. Well, it's not that hard to get across. Take half of a loaf of bread. It's a portion of the quantity. Half a laptop, well, take the portion of the laptop. Doesn't work, but it's all you have. So this quantity over there, the second number, is what we have at the start. And I'm taking a portion of that. What portion? The first fraction tells me that. So that is the intuitive understanding of the multiplication phrase, I'll say. So if we jump straight to the exercises on page 14.7. No, not page 4. Exercise 14.7. Currently page 124. The first one is 1/5 times 2/3. So that reads, it's a portion, 1/5 of 2/3. Well, and then really of a whole. So I have, this is what I have, 2/3 of a whole. So let's say here I have, let's make my rectangle to represent that nice and big. Then I have 2/3, so I'm going to split it into 3 vertical pieces. Color pink what I have, and that is 2 of those 3 pieces. Okay, everything's good so far. The key is really just the second number is the quantity I have. Second number. And I've had situations, tutoring, long time ago, but still, where it came out that the teacher never told them the of word. So now it's just a mystery. How am I supposed to multiply these things? Link it to something more intuitive, like a word, and it's always the of word. Take a portion of a quantity. Oh, that's much easier now. So, how do I now take 1/5 of that? Well, I'm going to have to split this loaf of bread into 5 slices horizontally so that I can talk about fifths. Now, each row is 1/5 of the loaf of bread. But when I talk about 1/5 of what I have the pink stuff. I need to take only 1 of the 5 rows of what we have. See how it links to 1/5 of 2/3 of a whole. I'm really just using the triangles to convert the fractions to nice whole numbers. I need to take 1 of the 5 rows, because 1/5, of what? Of what we have, which is only the pink. So I'm going to take the top one and not the others. So, what do we take? Yes. What do you mean? In terms of what I take? No, because I need to take a fifth, and the fifths are represented as rows. So once I've committed to that, I need to take one of the 5 rows. That only includes the 2 pink. So I only take 2 pink because that's all I have. Sorry, the pink was all I had. I never had these on the right. I only had the pink. And of the pink, of what we have, I'm taking 1/5. So our answer is, oh, I keep missing that sentence, I'm sorry. Backtrack. You can't be surprised. It takes how many of these little pieces in general to make one whole rectangle? It takes 15. We've only taken 2, so our answer therefore is 2 15ths. Which I of course know because I know the shortcut to multiplication, multiply the top, multiply the bottom, but that's not intuitive. I can use that to check. Clearly the answer is 2 15ths, but how do I get there intuitively is the issue. The of word linked to multiplication is the key. The second one is 5/6 times 1/4. Regardless of what that second one is, that is the quantity that I have. So we represent what we have as a rectangle. In this case, it's a little bit. We don't have a lot. But we're going to cut our loaf of bread into 4 equal pieces, of which we have only 1. We don't have a lot this time. It's whatever that second quantity is. Then the first fraction tells us what we take of that quantity, how much we take. And it says we have to take 5 out of 6. I'm going to go rows because columns are already taken care of. So I need to see what I have broken up into 6 equal pieces. Now you don't need to technically extend these all the way, but I think it's better if we do. Remembering still that we only have the pink. So, I can't remember what we wrote last time, so we're just going to make it up in a way that we feel is clear enough. Let's say we have to take 5 of the 6 rows of what we have. I just want to emphasize that. So I'm taking, let's say, the first 5 and not the last one. So that means we took only 5 in this case, pink little pieces. We didn't have too much. Now, what is a little piece relative to the whole rectangle? So that's a sentence that might be nice to write. It takes, in general, oops, how many? It's going to be 24. 24 little pieces to make a whole rectangle. So therefore, we took slash we have left, however you want to phrase it, 5/24. And of course, of a whole is always the next part of a fraction. But you don't have to write it every time. So that wasn't so bad, I don't think. 5/24. In this case, I can't simplify it, but even if you can, do not give in to the temptation of simplifying. But in this case, there's no temptation. Any questions on multiplication? Yes? Well, I don't want you to feel restricted to write exactly that, but you have to use enough words that it's intuitively clear how you got the answer.
Can you just like check off them all and then cross out the last one? Would that be enough to be like 5 or 4?
There's going to have to be some words. I'm not going to lie. Where does it come from that we're doing math, we can't write any words? I don't know where that comes from. Write more words. Hmm?
You talked about needing writing of the words.
When did I say that? I don't remember that.
Multiple times. You talked about having to write out numbers when you were learning.
Yes, but that was when we were, how should I say it? Sort of introducing the mathematical language as an alternative to the words. Here, the intuitive side is all about staying away from the mathematical language. And the downside is then the words. You have to still have a language. So the words need to compensate for that. You have to ask yourself, if you write less, and you just check marks and whatever, sort of objectively, if you give it to someone else, does it make sense? Does it stand alone as much as it can? And if your answer is, I think so, then no, it's not enough. More words. And there's time. There's going to be time for words. So don't be worried about the time. Let's do another one for sure so that we can see a mixed number in that second quantity, allowing us to draw more rectangles, which is really why we came. And of course, you can put your own spin, pizza slices and wedges. I just don't really have the drawing skills for that. The wedges do not turn out the same size. So I thought a rectangle would be better. 2/3 times 2 1/4. That's read as I'm taking 2/3 of my quantity. So I have a lot of bread this time. So I start with what I have. Whoops, not a line. I have, can I fit it? I want to fit it in all in one row for sure. So yes, it's very much not about you finding the answer as much as it is a guide for someone to learn how to find the answer completely intuitively. Now you might say here, maybe I don't need to color these in or split these up, but I certainly need to split out the last one because I don't have the full loaf of bread. Because in subtraction and addition, we didn't need to split up all the whole loaves of bread. In this case, oh, I only have one of those 4 pieces. So now I clearly see what I have. Next, I need to take 2 of 3. So I need to split this into thirds, which will go horizontal, but everything I have needs to be split. So I need to go all the way through. All the way through. So I need to take 2 of the 3 rows of what we have. So I'm taking, let's say, the first 2 and not the last one. So that means we took, well, I can't see, the pieces aren't comparable. So that tells me I need to split everything up into 4 vertical slices as well. I wasn't sure if I needed it. In this case, yeah, I need it for multiplication. So I end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in a row, 2 rows, so 18 of those little square-like pink pieces. The second number being a mixed number just means I have more to start with, so I'm going to end up with more. So now I just need to figure out what portion of a whole is this 18. So my sentence is, it takes, how many? Only 12. 12 pieces to make one whole rectangle. So you can write a little more. I know you want to write more, so let's do more. Since 18 can be split up into 12 and then another 6, this becomes one whole, and this becomes 6/12 of a whole. So we have left, or we took, 1 6/12. When we explain things as intuitively as possible, we need a lot of words. A lot of words. Unless you're there to say the words, of course. Either way, words need to be said. Any questions on that one? If you write 1 6/12 and then 1 1/2, I'll agree to look the other way. But if you just write 1 1/2, no. Simplification is not part of this, but if you want to attach it at the end, fine. I'm not going to look at that, but I need to see 1 6/12, because intuitively that is the answer you arrive at. Thoughts? More examples? Enough? Maybe one more? Oh, sweet. 8. Good call. I need to practice my splitting the rectangle into 8 pieces. And it's going to be rows as well. But 8 is as far as we're going to go. Even though 10 is doable, I don't think I'm going to bother with that. 4. So it's 7/8 of a quantity. And it has to be to the point where you almost don't even see the multiplication. I see the word of when it's a fraction. We'll get to that in a second. Have. I have. No, not too much. I can fit that easily. 1 whole loaf of bread and another 2/3 of it. So I'm definitely going to go thirds. Now I know I'm going to have to split everything up eventually, so I might as well do it now. So obviously maybe a ruler would be nice. Bring a ruler to the test. Not a bad idea. But if you have the skill, then you don't have to. So I have 1 whole loaf of bread, as well as 2 out of the 3 pieces of the other loaf of bread. So I need to take 7 of 8 rows, because I've used columns. So I'm going to have to make rows of 8. So split it in half. I'm just going to go straight through. Why not? Split that in half. Split the half in half again. And eventually I'll have 8 somewhat equal rows. I need to take, let me just highlight that the bottom one was not really pink enough, but I do have all of that. I just let my lines go straight through. Of course, there's nothing in the middle. So I have to take 7 out of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and not the last one. So I'm going to have quite a lot. So we're taking, each row is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 35 little pink pieces. 35 little pink pieces. Then I just need to figure out how this relates to a whole rectangle. So it takes how many to fill a rectangle? No, I'm asking. 24. Something's not right. I just continue? Okay. 24 pieces to make a whole. So that means I can take my 35 and split it up into 24, and I'll have 11 left. This will be one whole, and this will be, really it's over there, 11 24ths of a whole. Let me know if I'm going too fast. Just if you've done this like a zillion times, I tend to go too fast. Which, I mean, it's a good sign, because if you've done enough of these, it's going to be very straightforward. It's always the same. Yes, numbers change, but how you approach it is not going to change for each type of question. So we have left, or we took, whatever words you want to say, 1 and 11 24ths. And of course, you can check your answer, if that's the right answer. We all should know the answer. It's how we get there, So the answer is not an improper fraction. The answer is a mixed number. The answer is a mixed number. They push mixed numbers much more because it's the whole and part of a whole concept that is more obvious than in an improper fraction. Even though, ironically, later on, you never use mixed numbers at all. But any thoughts on that? So when it's a fraction smaller than 1, of course, all positive, times a quantity, then this is certainly interpreted as portion, I'm take a portion of the quantity that we have. That is the intuitive concept for fraction times a number. But that's not the intuitive concept of multiplication in general. Almost blinded me again. That's fine. That's not the intuitive concept of multiplication. If I have, for example, 2 times whatever quantity, whatever that second quantity is, what is the intuitive concept for that? How do we explain that? You're doubling your groups. You're doubling your quantity according to the multiplier. So you're duplicating in this case. Well, duplicating in general. Duplicating the original quantity, whatever that may be. And these two are not the same. These are not the same concepts. Yes, the bottom one is first, and then we get to fractions, and then you're just taking a portion of what you have. Whereas the original multiplication concept is you're doubling or more what you have. But they're both multiplication. So the intuitive understanding of multiplication changes depending on what the first number is. So then, if we mix them, like 2.5 times my quantity. How do I understand that? Well, I simply have to mix those two concepts. They still are separate, but now they happen at the same time. So the whole number portion, the 2, says I'm going to double my quantity, whereas the half says I get another half of the quantity on top of that. Because, though we don't necessarily show this, this is 2 plus a half. So I can do the 2 first, which doubles the n. I get something. Then I take a half of the n, and then I put them together.
But you can't do like 2 times n and just half that number.
No, because they don't know things like the distributive property and any of that, right? Technically, we know more, that the n multiplies in, and you get 2 times n plus a half times n. But on the intuitive side, there's nothing like that. Right? Those are shortcuts when the numbers get complicated and messy for how addition and multiplication behave together. So staying on the intuitive side, no. So it's a mix of duplicating and taking a portion. Or let's say adding. Adding a portion on top of that. So as long as I intuitively understand that the whole portion of the first number and the fraction portion technically intuitively do different things, and then I put them all together at the end, we should be fine. I said multiplication is going to be a little more. Wait for division. Good times, but I think those good times have to wait for tomorrow. Exercise 14.8. And again, I don't want to beat this to death. If you feel after 2 exercises you get it, still multiplication, then let me know. So we now have in number 1, 1 1/5 times 2/3. Again, the second quantity, it doesn't matter if that's a mixed number or not, that's how much I have. Whatever I have, I'm now taking 1 of that on top of 1/5 of that. Okay? So I have the 2/3. So now there's a little more flexibility in how you want to represent this. So let me know if you feel there's a more intuitive way. So I'm going into thirds so that I can visualize what I have originally. Or it's like someone says, how much candy do you have? I'll give your friend 1 1/5 times that much. They're going to end up with more candy. I feel that that's fairly intuitive. I'll just get my pink. Nice. No, she just takes it. She's quite the little dictator. You know. She doesn't even ask. No, please, thank you. Just takes it. But then, oh no, the reverse is never acceptable. No. Don't you dare take hers. So, now one way to do it is to say, well, we can take, whoops, nothing. We can take all of this to account for the 1, and then with another 1/5 of the 2/3. So now all of this is good. Check. All of this is coming. Well, not in the section. Check. With another, because I'm ending up with a bigger number, yes.
So we then have to
No, I never had it. Only of what I had. Yes, which is why my check mark was a little unfortunate. Only of what I had. So let's say, I'm just going to leave it like that. So now, in order to figure out what is 1/5 of that, to add on top of a whole portion of what I had, different uses, so be careful. I now have to do the straightforward fraction multiplication like before. So maybe cover that, so I don't think about it too much. Now, just to streamline this, actually, I don't know. I'm not going to write all the words every time because we've done it before. Oh, not pink. But we'll write enough. Now I just have to redo the previous kind of question. Split this into fifths. Take one of those 5 rows, although I didn't have my pink quite clear here. There we go. Black, say here for this one. I'll do it over here. Take one of 5 rows, one and not the others. That gives me 2 little pink pieces on top of what I had. I now get 2 extra ones. So I think it's better to add them separately on a new sketch.
Top 2 count as just 1, 2?
No, they're not comparable yet, so I'm going to have to split them as well. Yeah. But I didn't know it at that stage. Now I see, okay, I want to merge these 2 pieces with the top, so I'm going to have to see these as comparable pieces, which means I'm going to go fifths here as well, so that I can make sure I have, now I know those don't look like fifths, but they are. So overall, we now have, the top gives me 10, and the bottom gives me 2 for 12 pink little slices. Now it takes how many to make a whole rectangle? 15. 15 pieces to make a whole. So we now have 12/15ths of my loaf of bread, or whatever the unit is. I started with 2/3, which was 10/15, and I now have a little more. How do we feel about that? There's a downside to being too intuitive, that you can't rely on all those efficient mathematical little things. But it's almost nice to do it this way, then you appreciate all the efficiency of the mathematical language. Questions, thoughts? Are we happy with this kind of presentation? Does it make enough sense? I hope so. How many more should we do? No, she's reaching her limit. I just don't want anyone to not be sure what we're doing. I want to do the second one at least. Let's at least do that one. Just to be sure that everyone is happy with how we present it, how we think about the mix, and all that. 2 5/6 times 1/4. Again, the second quantity is quite irrelevant. It's just whatever I have will get duplicated and expanded a little bit. So I actually like to see a small second quantity because it means my drawings aren't that big. So I just want to see it. So fourths is also not a bad one to do. Pink time. Only one of them. So now I have to double this because of the 2. So I have to double this. And then also I need to take 5/6 of what I had. So I'll do a second drawing for that. Pretty much the same thing in the beginning. What to do? Pink time. So for this, I need to go 6 rows. 6 rows. Split it in half, and then each half into 3 pieces. It's very quiet. I'm not loving the quiet. We need to finish this topic. It's bothering me. Feels like I'm doing something wrong. And then, no, I hope so, but, and I know everyone's busy drawing, it just doesn't feel right. We take 5 of the 6 rows. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We do not take the 6th one. So that means we have, on top of the above doubling, we have 5 pink pieces as well. What did I just do? I'm not sure what I just did. Let's go back to my pen. Then pink, there we go. 5 pieces, but I can't see what I have at the top. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to split this up into 6 as well. This is pink, isn't it? Yep. Six rows, half, and then 3. Why doesn't it go all the way? That's weird. That one does. Oh well, I never had that anyway, so who cares? So, what do we have? So the doubling here would mean we have 12 pieces. Because of the 2, I'm doubling 1/4. Each quarter is 6 of those little pieces. So now I have 12 with the bottom part.
So each one is 2.
Got them, 6.
Yeah.
And I'm doubling it. 6 times 2 is 12. You know you've done too many of this when basic arithmetic starts falling apart. And we may need a break. But division is waiting. There's no break. So overall, oops, overall, what do we have? Well, we have 17. 17 pieces. My pink sections expanded a little bit to 17. And I just need to relate that to a rectangle. It takes, count them, 24 little pieces to make a whole rectangle. So therefore, we now have 17/24 of a rectangle. Good times in multiplication class.
Please remember to click the like button if you enjoyed the video, and to subscribe if you want to be notified of more videos. Thank you.